Hey, what's up, guys? This is Christian, and I'm here again with my cousin Nano, and we're shooting episode 2. And this episode we'll be covering how 90 babies grew up different from the year 2000 babies, or just from 2000 to 2010, yeah, around that era. And then we'll be briefly touching upon the subject of stigma. And we'll try to explain our views on stigma as well. Okay, and do you have anything to share, Nano?
I do actually. So this is our second one, but our third time trying to do or not trying to do, but doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And I watched our last one, and there's a few things that I said that I found myself thinking like, wait, you don't even agree with that. How did you say that? But essentially, just want everybody to know, like, this is our first time doing a podcast. We don't really know how to do podcasts, and we're learning how to do them, and we're really trying to get our voice out there. I think that's the most important thing that we're trying to get out of this, get our voice out there, because we do have these issues within our society that we want to address them in a way that's going to be in a platform that's going to allow us to speak our mind, but also be able to go back, listen to it, and be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to shift how I'm going to say that, and also I'm going to shift the way I see that, right? I'm growth, right? That's exactly what this podcast is for us to be able to grow, and I like that we have this ability to do that. But if you hear something in the podcast that you're like, what the heck, I don't agree with that, or no, that's like not true at all, just bear with us.
Yeah.
I guarantee you I'll probably go back and listen to it and agree with you as well. So that's just kind of what I wanted to say. And then also, like, comment. We have a comment already going on our first podcast. Like, comment, let us know. Like, I'm surprised that some people actually agree with what I had said, because I didn't agree myself with some of the things that I had said. So it was great to see feedback on the podcast, but let's see some more feedback. If anybody wants to put more comments, anybody wants to say anything about what we're talking about, or if you have your own insight, right? If you have something that we can learn from you, I'm more excited to learn.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to put it as well that when I was speaking about how during the 1984s, that's when the Hispanics got the Hispanics that were working here, the immigrants that were working here in agriculture, got citizenship. That actually happened. I researched it, and it was in 1965. I'm sorry, I didn't want to mislead you guys, and I want to let you guys know that, like how Nana was saying, we're in the moment. We're speaking, trying to get used to this, and mistakes do happen. But just to let you know, it was during 1965, and it was called naturalization. That's what I was trying to touch upon when I was talking about the 1984 and Mexicans becoming civilians and getting just papers to live here and stuff. So legal documents, and that was the era, and that was the time. It was 1965. sorry about that.
I like that you're saying that, because I know on my end there's like a few things that I said, like factually I said them and I got the dates wrong, or I got like the name of whatever it is that I said wrong, or I mean, even when I was talking about like family dynamics, like stuff that I had said about my own family are not necessarily true. I was using it in the sense of like the perspective of an individual, not myself as the individual, but just the perspective of an individual. And understanding that yes, we're learning and we're growing, but I think, like I said, the great thing about this platform is that we as men are able to go back and kind of look at what we said and then change it, right? That's something that we don't always see in our society. People going back and changing their opinions, changing their minds, and I think that's something that we can do. And you and I are doing it in such a different way, where we're able to listen to the podcast, watch it, and then say, actually, I'm going to next time say something different, because I don't necessarily agree with what I said. And I am sure not everyone is going to always agree with what we're saying, but the great thing about you and I and this podcast is that we can actually grow from that. We can allow ourselves to grow from that and shift our perspectives, because that's what the world, it lacks that. It lacks the males being able to say, you know what, I was wrong. Or, you know what, I don't actually think that. Or, actually, I used to think that, and now I'm going to change my mind because you brought in some really, really awesome, good new information for me. So I like that idea. I like the idea that we're going to be able to grow and then be able to watch these again and say, like, next time I'm going to say this. Like, if I can remember one thing that I said off the top of my head, that I was like, no, you don't agree with that, Well, even just I feel like after watching it, I felt like if I was an outsider, if I didn't know who the person was talking, I would think that the things that I was saying is that I come from a homophobic family, and that's not necessarily true. There's people in my family that can be homophobic, but I guarantee you, there's so many other people in my family that love me and are accepting, and there's not even an acceptance that has to happen. They just love me. It's the bottom line. They love me, and that there's no homophobia within that.
Exactly.
So I think like, that's something that I do want to get across. Like I don't come from a homophobic family, but traditionally we do have Latinos specifically. Our background is that of we see things in traditional form, and sometimes homosexuality is not what we see as tradition. And I think that we can again grow from that and come back and say, actually, no, I don't come from a homophobic family, but I was using the perspective of like, if we do come from a homophobic family, what that look like in terms of disease, in terms of COVID-19. Because if you again don't have somewhere to go because you got kicked out of your house, you're gonna find yourself in a lot of different situations that you wouldn't have found yourself had your family accepted you, right? Or had your family loved you or taking you in versus kick you out. At last but not least, I never got kicked out of my mom's house. My mom was.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into how 90s babies grew up differently from the year 2000 babies. Okay, so what I really I wanted to ask you, Nano, like how do you see they grew up different from when we were growing up, from where we're going from grade school all the way up to high school? Like how what do you think is different?
What's different, I think, is that our society is not the same. When I was going to school, I went to school, I think my preschool was like in 97. I was in preschool in 97. I remember turning 5 in preschool, so I'm trying to do math in my head. And then in kindergarten, I was 6, 7, 8, right? Or 6, 7, and then... And one thing that I saw, what I remember the most of like my childhood is that it was fun. I had a great time, but there was just no idea. This idea of like the internet is not something that we had. This idea of like playing games on a computer is not something that we had. That was a luxury for some folks. But that's not something that I didn't know what a computer was until I was actually in school, like physically in school. And I think nowadays kids, these do grow up with that experience. They know what this is here. This is a phone, and they can use it in whichever capacity that they want to. Some of them even own these phones, these devices. That's not something that I didn't see that growing up. I never in my life asked my mom to use her cell phone until I was a lot older, and I remember what phone it was. She had a Nokia, and it had the game stick.
It had that button for the flashlight on the top, huh?
What was that?
Remember the Nokia used to have a flashlight on the top? You would press a button and it'll turn it on? Do you remember
Probably. That? I don't know, honestly. Yeah, I don't remember. But I do remember that. I remember playing my 64.
Oh, there you go.
I remember fighting with you in the 64 and being upset.
Yeah.
Like, things like that. Like, I feel like people don't necessarily grow up with those experiences anymore. And I could be wrong. I am not growing up in this generation, in this newest generation, so I don't know what it's like. I just know that they're not necessarily fighting for trying to get the character, but they're actually fighting with what's happening inside the game. The video game itself is a lot more violent than they were back then. I think that too. I think generations now are growing up with a lot more violence. They're exposed to a lot more violence.
Hey, one thing.
Whereas
go ahead.
No, go for it.
Okay, one thing I gotta say about gamers nowadays, you kids need to slow down, man. You guys are too good.
They're good.
They're too.
It's like they practice all day long. I mean, we're in quarantine season, so it makes sense why they have time to play games. But
I'm just like, dude,
oh my gosh,
really?
like my brother when he plays, his hands move so fast, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, do you realize how fast your hands are moving? Your fingers are moving right now, and I don't think she necessarily does until I point it out to him. I remember when I played the 64, I would play like this.
You would move the control with the character.
Yeah, I would move with the control. And I see like folks who are a lot younger, like maybe they're 3, their development specifically is not at a developmental stage where they can recognize that they just have to move their fingers, not move their whole body.
Yeah.
But that's like 3-4-year-olds that we're talking about. That makes sense for the development of that person.
Yeah.
Whereas like I remember I was already like in past grade school, like still doing this. And I guarantee you, I have a 64 still. And if I was to play, if I go like a long time without playing and I would start playing again, I would definitely like still do
Move
this
the
first
control.
until I get back.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
And that's just different to me. I think for sure, like one thing that stands out to me is the fact that they're growing up with a lot more. They're exposed to a lot more violence.
more violent.
And like
Is
like,
it-
I mean, I grew up with violence.
Do you
but-
think it's violence like in the video games, or is like violence like streetwise, or what are you trying to what kind of violence are you talking about?
all of the above?
All of the above.
All of the above, because I think that when like home dynamics are very different. So that's one form of violence, right? Maybe there's domestic violence in the household.
Yeah.
Like video game violence is very different, but also our media. What we see on TV is violent. It's not necessarily the things that I watched growing up. It was murder shows today are a lot more graphic, and also, I mean, not to say that they're not real. Like, it's real life. It's what's happening, and it's the experience of a lot of people. But I think that the level of exposure to children specifically is highly more increased versus back then. Like back then, my mom didn't have a phone to be distracted on, so she knew what I was watching. She knew. I mean, I remember growing up not being allowed to watch The Simpsons because that was violent. And my mom was really good about being present there and saying like, no, don't watch that. You can't watch that. And it's not that we would get like in physical trouble or anything like that, but it was that conversation that we would have. No, this is why you don't watch that. Whereas I feel like now, again, I'm wrong. I don't have a child of myself. I'm not a parent, but I feel like because there's so many more distractions, children are exposed and liberated to do a lot more things, but exposed to those forms of violence, like watching crime on TV or movies where the goal is to kill the enemy, things like that. Like that's violence. I think there's a quote, not a quote. There's a statistic that I had read many moons ago about the amount of violence that children are exposed to before they even enter preschool, and the amount of deaths that they're exposed to before preschool, and it's a high number. And I know for a fact that I know I didn't grow up that way. That's something that evolutionary. That's not the right word, but that's what I'm trying to say. In terms of evolution, it's evolved into such a more. That number has grown so much more. The number has grown to. I want to. Do you mind if I'm gonna do that. Yeah. I'm gonna use my phone to Google how much violence are children exposed to for preschool. But what do you think, Chris? What about you? How do you view our last generation versus, the 1990s, the decade of the 1990s, those who grew up in that generation, and then those who grew up in the 2000s
era? Yeah. So, you know what? I can't speak for everybody, but if I touch upon the people who came out of the same community we grew up, or the same town that we grew up in, I see a lot of difference. You were saying about violence. I feel like we grew up around a lot of violence as well. So, for example, we were around gangs, no matter what. We were around gangs. We didn't have we really didn't have a choice to say like no, because what happened was we were exposed to it so young. I remember playing sports in school, from middle school, elementary. I was playing sports, and I ain't gonna lie, like half of my teammates were gang members, and they were gang members, even from 3rd grade, 4th grade, and people think like, oh, you're crazy. There ain't no way there's kids at that age that are gang members, and trust me, they are. They have so much influence from their family members that. It just, that generation kept passing on and on and on. It just keeps passing on. All that knowledge, gang relations, it just gets passed on. And and the thing is, I didn't have no I didn't have any like I didn't shame them. I was like, they grew up like that. That's all they know. They know. Yeah, they were my friends. They were my teammates, classmates. They were my neighbors. We come from a small town. Everyone knows everybody. But yeah, like what I was saying is, you can't shame anybody that grew up learning that, and that's all they learned from the start. And I mean, I like that I grew up around people that were part of the gangs and stuff, because it showed me a lot of street knowledge. I mean, I never got caught up in the ways, but I did learn the ways, and I knew what would happen if someone had snitched, or if I would, that we grew up knowing that stuff. Yeah, and I'm not saying because nowadays you don't see a lot of kids stuck in gangs from the ages that we were exposed to, from like 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade and up. Now you hardly ever see it, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That's a good thing that I really like seeing that, because I remember asking my little brother, like, hey, have you seen a high school fight recently? Because there's high school fights, there's middle school fights,
lockdown.
Constantly.
Fights, they were locked down.
Yeah, they were constant. They're just, there's like, oh, if it wasn't today, then tomorrow someone was in a fight. If it wasn't tomorrow, then it was the day after. And yeah, I asked him, like, have you seen the high school fight, or that was just my thing, and then he's like, nah, like, I haven't seen anybody. And I asked him, like, is there a lot of gang members? And he's like, nah, like, you hardly see it. And I was like, damn, like, that's good, that's a good thing. It's a good thing that kids are starting to realize, even adults that were part of the gangs that have kids are starting to realize, like, no, that's not the road they want for their children. And because I wouldn't want that for my child, especially not for my child. But yeah, I feel like we did.
You want Nicolas in the streets anymore?
Nah, I want to know. Nah.
Of course not. I mean, why would we? Are you kidding me? That's not a. And the streets there are not something to be ran. Like, you don't have to run the streets. You just have to live in them. You have to be a part of it.
You gotta be. It's a different from representing a side than representing or being proud of where you come from. Because everywhere I go, as soon as someone asks me, like, hey, where you from? Oh man, that's like I can't wait to say it. Like, I'm from Early Mart. And they're like, oh damn, really? Like, oh yeah, like, I'm proud to say where I'm from, because it made me the person I am today. I mean, I have so much knowledge from street knowledge, book smarts, and I appreciate growing up in that era, the 90's era, and seeing what I could have became, and that just showed me how strong I am as a person, to realize that, is that really what I want? I'm not gonna drop anybody from my circle as a friend because they became something I wasn't, and I mean, like I said, it made me the person I am today, a strong person, mentally and physically, because where we grew up, at the era we grew up, was very tough. We constant fighting, just kids trying to getting recognized, earning respect, and that just showed us different aspects of not of the era, but of the place where we grew up from. So that's why I appreciate that. And yeah, we did grow up differently. I feel like we grew up differently from the year 2000s and up, just because of that. Because, like I said, we didn't have a choice. No matter what we did, no matter where we went, there was always gang relations. There's always someone there that was part of a gang. And I mean, I grew up listening to the music. My older brother, he hated when I would listen to the music, and I was just like, I don't know what else to listen to, like this, um, and it was just something I was exposed to, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know sides. I didn't know anything like that. Um, but yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's a good, like I said, it's a great thing that you hardly see that nowadays, because I wouldn't want my little brother, my little sister, like I said, my son, my cousins, growing up with that same, having to go through that same, like during the same times that we grew up in, because they were like I said, they were tough. It was all about someone being tougher than the other person. She said, he said this, and it just. But it's a good thing. That's how I feel with them. But also, like how you're touching upon technology wise, like how they're gamers and they're insanely good, and which I highly agree with that.
They're gaming specifically. They're just so good. I don't know if we were talking about this before or after the podcast, but like my brother's fingers, they just move so fast.
Mm-hmm.
I think to myself, like, wow, like. Not only are your fingers moving so fast, the computer screen looks the TV screen looks so much different than when I used to look at the TV screen in those games. So the graphics are so different.
Oh, yeah.
The software that you're using is so much faster, so you're able to do so much more in such a little time. And I think to myself, like, whoa, that's so wild to me. Like, I used to spend all day trying to pass Word Rats in Paris, trying to collect tickets and balloons. Where my brother plays Fortnite and is like trying to win these battles so he can get battle passes and do all these other things within the game, that I find myself being like, whoa, that's so wild. And we build these things so fast, like, oh.
Can I put input? You said you took so much time trying to pass Rugrats in Paris. 64 game, I remember that game. But before we even played, you know how long it took us to turn on that game without it freezing?
Oh my gosh!
We had to blow on the cassette. We had to get a Q-tip, dip it in some rubbing alcohol, and start cleaning the inside of the cassette. It was a struggle, it was real, dude.
Right. And then if it wouldn't work, like, okay, who's gonna do it next?
Yeah, exactly. Or we had antennas. We had to move the antennas, so it won't be so pixelated. Oh my god, dude. These kids got it, they got it made, and they got it made.
They got it made.
Yeah, and then remember, we would always be like, when someone gets mad, nowadays they could throw a control, and they could throw it. If we were playing and we got mad and we threw a control, that whole game would just pause. It would freeze. We had to reset it, blow on the cassette again, all over again. Yeah,
the way they save their data, like I would have to spend all day doing the things I did yesterday because I didn't pass the game, the level, because I had nothing to save my data on.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, like
they have a whole they have like a hard drive inputted in the yeah. We had to buy that separately, and it connected to the back of the controller.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
And limited data that you were able to put on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember, Julian. If you are watching this, comment please, because there is this game that you were playing that he was in a career for some athletic team. I want to say it was baseball or basketball.
Oh, is it the basketball 2K?
Is it 2K?
I think it might be 2K.
So he basically started at the college level and then like moved up into the NBA, and I was thinking to myself like, the games now are set up to where these children are gonna be able to navigate how to actually get to their goals. Like I remember growing up and seeing my friends saying that they were gonna play for the NBA and play for the major leagues and the NFL, but there wasn't no step on how to get there. It was go to school, and play sports.
Yeah.
Be good in sports, have good grades so that scouts can give you scholarships, and then you go into college and go about it that way. But now my brother, on top of the fact that he can do that route, he also is able to play a game, play it in career mode, and establish a career into the NFL.
Yeah.
And knows how that looks like, what are the things he had to do, who he had to communicate. And then, of course, it's a game. It's a game set up that way. Like, it's going to send him text messages on his phone on the game console itself. But I think it's so cool that it moves into this career where now you're not just playing anymore. You're actually learning how to navigate the NFL system or the NBA system or the major league, right? Like that, and I think that that's beneficial. It's no longer time wasted on games.
Yeah.
It's trying to figure out how to navigate. Well, if you want to be in the NFL, you got to learn how to get there. And now these games kind of allow you to have that career into the NFL. And I thought that was really cool because in real life, it's what we see. Like in college, well, it actually starts before college. In high school, there's scouts that are going to go look at the games, right, and kind of keep an eye on you. But and then they might even offer you a scholarship from college, from high school to college.
Yeah.
But in college, when you have people that you're playing for, like let's say you're playing for, I'm trying to think of a college football team, the Florida Gators. You're playing for the Florida Gators. Well, you can actually come from Florida high school. I'm just making it up here. Florida high school. A scout gets you there, and then you go to college. You go to work, you go to college at the University of Florida, and then now you're a Gator. You're working, or you're playing football with the Gators. Well, there's going to be NFL scouts looking at that, and that's going to take you. If you are someone that stands out, you're going to be someone that's going to get drafted into the NFL, like you, right? But now they're able to do that with the game. They're able to do it on the game, and then now they get to high school, and they know the importance of having good grades, because in the game that they were playing, they had to have certain level of, and it's not grades anymore, but it's different missions that you have to pass.
Yeah.
Missions that they do now are so much more strategic to the games that they're relevant to the games that they're playing, whereas I remember playing Conqueror's Bad for a day and not really understanding, like, why are all of a sudden we're in tanks? I don't understand why we're in tanks and trying to shoot each other versus in tanks. Or, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so different. The career path is so different. And the adventure mode, I think you can gain a lot more from the adventure mode in games today. And we were able to back then.
You have it teaches you an aspect of life, like what you can possibly be if you continue playing, for example, basketball or NFL. If you go in the NFL, continue playing, or you keep playing as a kid, you end up getting big. You end up getting better and better while you're going through your high school ages. Going through high school, then you're able to get scouted. So it shows you the whole process of being scouted and becoming a professional athlete. When we were playing, I remember playing Blitz. Remember playing Blitz?
Yeah.
I mean, all it was knock the other guy, knock him out. You know. I mean, yeah, I know exactly. I know what you're trying to get across is that it shows you the process and the steps to become a professional athlete.
The one game that comes to mind when I was younger is Super Mario, where we had to rescue Princess Peach.
Oh yeah.
I have to admit that played no relevance in my life. I have to admit I've been saved by more women than I can count, and I've never been the person to kind of save someone in that sense. Women have saved me, and so again, it's just adding humor to the podcast, right? Where we can laugh about the fact that it didn't train us for something that we were necessarily going to need, at least in my end, right? And it had if I was to play games now, like play games today with my brother, I start learning all of these different things. One thing that in the games that he plays is money management. He gets a lot of money, and then he's able to spend it in whichever ways that he wants to, whichever wants to buy a car, all these different things. He has like an apartment with me. So it's so cool. It's virtual that way.
Yeah.
It's like a different level of playing Sims, and that's the game that I got. I grew up with, like Sims.
Sims.
That game that you love, like the NBA, what is it, NBA 2K?
2K, yeah.
2K, yeah. So I do think that there's a lot more opportunity that they're growing up with. They're able to do more things differently, and I think that that's come from our society growing. Like our society not relying on like computers that took up the whole room. We rely on computers, and we made computers smaller. What else have we done in our society? We've well, even just our education system has changed completely too. Like right now with quarantine season or quarantine time, like students are able to be at school, but not at school physically. They're at school, but at home.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wish I was able to go to school from home. Like that would have been nice on the days that I didn't want to wake up early, or I had already missed the bus, and
right.
now I had to go to school. Like I wish I could have still been present in school, knowing that I didn't miss the bus. Like that was an option. That's an option that today's children have, is getting their assignments online and doing their assignments online, and that's not something that I didn't have that opportunity. And
yeah, you're
in college, I learned how beneficial it is to be able to stay at home and still participate in the class, because you have professors that upload documents online and things like that makes it so much easier, so much more accessible to us.
Mm-hmm. Another thing you were talking about is when you were saying kids have these iPhones, and it took us. I remember I got my first phone. It was a flip phone. It was a T-Mobile. It was a family plan where you can have 5 contacts, and you can contact all those 5 contacts for free.
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
And any other contacts, you had to pay for minutes and stuff. And my mom didn't buy me that. I was growing up playing. I was playing EYF, Early Mark Youth Foundation baseball, EYF, and my coach, she had betted me. She's like, "Hey, if you hit a home run, I'll buy you a phone." And I was like, "Right on." So I'm up to bat, and boom, hit a home run, and I'm running around the bases like, oh, I'm getting a phone, you know. And it's crazy because at the time I really wanted it. I really wanted a phone, but then I remember when I had the phone, I was like, well, why do I want a phone? I have no one to contact. None of my friends have a phone.
What grade were you in? Do you remember?
11?
What grade were you in?
I was, I believe, seventh grade.
Seventh grade.
Yeah, I had my first phone, and yeah, dude, and it wasn't given to me it wasn't bought by my mom. It wasn't at the time I believe it was probably BlackBerry at the time that was popping like that. That was the iPhone 11 during those times was the BlackBerry. I think that's what it was. And I had a flip phone, dude. Flip phone, no camera. And in order for me to have a ringtone, I had to record a song.
Dude. Days.
Yeah, dude. And
it was fun to record the song.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed it.
And you know what's funny? I would walk around with that same song playing over and over, and it was only like a 30-second audio. Yeah, dude.
Hey, were you trying to pretend somebody was calling you, or you just really liked the song?
No, I was just walking down the street. I was like, oh damn, I like that song, so I'm gonna record it. I mean, I didn't have an MP3 player at the time. Damn, dude, MP3 players.
You don't really see them around today.
I know, a Walkman, dude, like.
Oh my gosh.
Dude,
I forgot about a Walkman.
Yeah. Remember when I'm telling you, like, everything's so technology's like ahead of our times. I believe that technology, for example, like who's the creator of Apple? It's Bill Gates, right? Or,
Microsoft.
Microsoft. No, which the
I know his name.
Not Steve Jobs. There you go. Yeah. So yeah. Steve Jobs, or even Bill Gates, any creator, any technology creator, dude. I feel like they're ahead of the times. I feel like they've had all that technology, all that electronic created before these times. So they already know, like, okay, this year if for example, so and so comes out with this phone, well, we already have this one lined up, so we'll just top them with that. Boom. I feel like they have like phones that are like nowadays, if they have phones that are that are supposed to come out 10 years later. That's how so advanced they are. That's how I feel like they're that advanced that they have things lined up in order to keep competing with the other manufacturers and stuff, and and it's crazy because it's true. Because how are you gonna create? Okay, Google comes out with the Pixel. I don't know it's something Pixel, and then all of a sudden, here comes iPhone with the iPhone 11. Boom, 3 cameras, photography, all that stuff. Here comes Samsung with a Galaxy with a Note 10. Dude, I barely got the Note 10, and then I seen a picture, a leaked picture that they're already coming out with. I don't even know if it's called a Note 11 or I don't know what it's called, but it's already coming out. I'm like, dude, I'm barely even getting used to this phone, you know, like, and I mean, technology is just ahead of the times, and like how we were talking about how the generation, how our era of the 90's era compared to the 2000 era is different, and they beat us on that is electronic wise, and they're so intelligent with the electronics. I was trying to set up this freaking my phone to transfer a video clip to my laptop. Before, it used to just USB cord plugs in, your phone pops out, then you just drag your video from your folder. Dude, I'm lost right now. I don't even know what the heck to do. I was stressing over it. I'm like, I was telling Denise, she's like, just relax. But it's just it's crazy, dude. It's like insane. And
advanced.
yeah, and then also like these kids, the 2000 babies I feel like they're gonna be, a lot of them are gonna be very a lot of them will and can be students in MIT. They can build things, dude. Like, they're very intelligent with electronics. If they put their mind to it, they can go into college, computer science, all that stuff, dude. And I know they'll catch on quick because they catch on to everything freaking fast, dude. I'm just like, damn, scratching my head, and I don't know, dude. These dudes are insane.
You were talking about files transferring, and it reminded me why I invested in Apple.
Yeah.
Because you like document, like if let's say I'm writing a text on my phone, but I want to finish it off on my laptop, I can send it so easily. But I did that because when I was in college, I struggled. I struggled with my first laptop. I don't remember, it was some HP, I believe, an HP laptop that I had. And I had the Galaxy, but I like to write on my phone. I like to write my papers on my phone. Or I used to like to write my papers on my phone when I was in school.
Yeah.
And I would struggle with trying to get it to my computer. And then I learned that Apple actually has a system that's synced together where you can write something on here and then send it onto the computer, or just airdrop it. Airdropping has been so awesome for me because I can send pictures, videos, like like long length videos. I can just airdrop them to my computer.
See,
so we did our first podcast. That's what I did. I filmed it on my phone and I airdropped it to my computer, and it was there. It was great. So I'm able to do things so much more faster now.
Yeah. Which
saves so much more time to do more things, right? And I think it's wild to me how fast technology has become, because we didn't grow up with that. We have a level of calmness to us. Like, we have a level to say, like, nah, we need to take time to get to our goal. Whereas I feel like generation now, and please, if you're in that generation, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a level of impatience. There's a level of I want it now and I need it now. And I think that's something that you and I didn't necessarily grow up with. Like, no teníamos que aguantar.
Exactly.
Whereas,
like nowadays, everywhere you go, kids want Wi-Fi. Dude, I swear to you, I was I forgot where I was at. I think I was at like a McDonald's or something, dude, and ordering whatever, and this kid's throwing the biggest fit in the world, and I'm just like, dude, like, what's going on? Like, the parents are just ignoring him, and then until he finally spoke out and screamed out, he's like, they don't have, or they don't, the Wi-Fi is not working, this and that. I'm like, dude, really? That's what you're throwing a fit for? I would have been throwing a fit for them giving me a girl toy in my kids meal, dude. Like this dude is going crazy on because there's no or the Wi-Fi wasn't working, and I was just like, dude, like, it's bad, dude. Like what this world has come to, just like with like kids needing internet constantly on their phones. That's another thing. I work with the optometrist, so we deal with the eye, you know, and every optometrist that I work with, all the doctors, the providers there, we talk, and I tell them just like, dude, like it's sad that you see kids that are like 3 or 4 years old and up. They're 3 and 4 years old, 4 years old and up, that have these high prescription glasses, and it's due to them being glued exactly to their phones. And another thing too, like you just gotta stop, you know, like you gotta like parents, when you're parenting your kids, don't give them the phones, dude. Like it's harming their eyes, their vision's becoming, it's just bad, man. And so we were talking about it as well, that I was telling him like dude, like I want to put my kid, my son, into a school where they don't have to deal with laptops, because now everywhere you go, all the kids have a tablet, a laptop, or they're stuck on it, and that's the way teachers are grading papers. And I'm just like, dude, like these teachers need to stop being lazy, and say like, hey, you know what, this may be faster for us to grade paper or grade schoolwork, but in the long run, at the end of the day, or that we're affecting the kids' visions, you know, and they don't see that. They just see like, oh yeah, it's faster, it's more efficient, and we can assign them more work, and they can just submit it real quick. And it's bad though, dude, because it just shows lack of communication with the teacher and the student. Because back in the days, we would walk up a paper, be like, hey miss, I finished my exam, this and that. Boom, here's my paper. They can easily just really grade it, or be like, hey, you missed the question. Now they got to go through a whole like all kinds of submitted papers online, or whatever app or software they use, and just keep going and going and going, and be like, hey, you know what, like, well, they didn't answer this question, skip it, screw it, and just keep going like that, you know, like it. I feel like it's just bad. Another thing too is, if you have your kid, if you're driving and you have passengers in the car, and everyone else has their phone out and they're watching something on their phone, YouTube, whatever, or they're just on the phone just in general, that's bad for the vision. And I'm going to explain this to you guys. I was explained by the doctors that I work with. So our eyes are like cameras, right? Our eyes are like cameras, and especially when we're in a car and we're looking at our phone and the car's moving. When you shake a camera, what happens to the resolution of the video, or what happens to the image? It starts becoming distorted. It starts shaky, and we have a hard time to focus on that specific image. And the car is doing that same thing to your phone, because it's moving it, and we're just trying to focus. And the same way our camera, like say we take a picture, and then we move it real quick. All you see is a blur. That's screwing up our vision as well. That's exactly that's happening to our vision. As soon as we take a picture and we see that blur, the same time you were looking at the camera and the car hits a bump and it moves, you're creating that blur, and that's harming your vision as well. So that's facts.
No, it is. I love that you're saying that because one of the things I was gonna cut you off, and I'm glad I didn't because you elaborated really well on it. But another thing, what technology, phones specifically, like when I do this, now it's shining out blue light. Blue light specifically for our eyes produces chemicals to alert us. It produces it sends signals to our adrenaline to our adrenal glands to send adrenaline throughout our body so that we are awake, alert, right? And that's what blue light does. And so a lot of times when these kids are playing these games, it's throughout the day, right? But like you're losing this idea of nap time. A lot of kids don't take naps anymore, but it's because of the amount of blue light they're being exposed to. Nighttime is ready for them to go to sleep, and the last thing that they did was play on their tablet. Likely they're not gonna. It's gonna take them another 30 minutes to fall asleep because of the amount of exposure to blue light that they've experienced. Blue light again, it's that alertness. It alerts our body, and the more exposure we have to that, the harder our body's gonna. It's gonna be harder for our body to produce melatonin. That's gonna help us fall asleep. That's not gonna happen. It's counterproductive to the sleep cycle. It's counterproductive to I mean, you were mentioning about school. I like what you were saying about school, about teachers. I don't necessarily agree with you in the fact that they're lazy. I think that they it's something that they had to do in terms of survival, right? Like teachers got a lot more students, but they didn't get any more teachers as for help, right? So because there's a lot more students, they had to find ways to grade so much easier, right? And again, it's not that I think that they're lazy. I think that they just have to find a way to survive. But it does exactly that. It creates a level of miscommunication. It creates a level of miscommunication between the student and the teacher, because during this quarantine season, I talked to a few of my teacher friends, and what they're seeing is that their students are not engaged. They're BSing their assignments, or they're not doing their assignments, or which is not far from what we used to do when we were young and got stuck. Is cheat. But now you're not asking your friend like, hey, what's the answer to this, or so and so. It's that they're literally just sending in the same information. My friend got 2 of the same papers, and the only difference within those papers was the title, and the title was different, and the conclusion was worded differently. But that's what we do, right? I remember growing up and just summarizing the heck out of things so that I can pass it off as my own words, right? Before I understood what plagiarism was. But that's something that it took me, that was like more of a challenge for me to do that, versus now it's just sending the assignment to one friend, and that friend sends the assignment to the professor, and tweaking it here and there so that it doesn't look exactly the same. Well, it's what we're finding. And so I think, if anything, the person that I would call lazy is not the teacher, it's the student from that scenario, of course. But I think that's what they've had to do in terms of, like, our school population has gotten huge. But we still don't have that many teachers, and also the teachers that we do have didn't see any benefits. Like, they didn't get a raise. If anything, I think they lost money at one point between 2000 and 2015. They had like basically a wage cut or whatever, for lack of a better way of saying it. But essentially, resources did not come to teachers; it came to students, and because of the amount of students that population has grown. But I think that it does create this level of miscommunication, because, like, what my friend told me, he's like, I don't trust my students anymore. So now the assignments that he's giving them are going to be a lot more challenging, where I'm thinking to myself, well, you don't know what their home life is like. You don't know what they're not at school. You're not seeing them present in school, and so you're that's the level of, the way I see it is miscommunication. Whereas if the teacher communicated to the child differently, where this is the assignment, this is what you're going to do, and if you have any questions, email me, that's going to be very different than when you're in classroom and you have a child that you can see is asking for the answers from another student. You can intervene right then and there and educate, right? That communication effective there than what we're seeing now with technology. And I love the idea of being able to be at school but at home. But I think that there were so many benefits to being in school at school, and then including that idea of cheating, right? Because your teacher's right there. You're not going to cheat when your teacher's right there. Well, now it's an out of sight, out of mind thing. Out of sight, out of mind tells us that, well, my teacher's not around, so I'm going to do whatever I want. And it again that creates an unhealthy form of communication between the students.
Another thing I wanted to touch upon was same thing, 90s generation, or 90s era from to 2000 era. Do you believe there's like the 2000 era is more antisocial than the 90s era?
I have met more younger folks today that are a lot more shy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more. Their social skills are just not as advanced as ours were, and that's just because they're not like you and I right now are talking over a computer. But we both know ideally we'd like to be together face to face. Whereas I know my brother, he's fine with being in his room and being on headphones, virtually talking to his friends. Like that's good for him.
Yeah.
He's very comfortable in that environment. Whereas I mean, you saw in the last podcast and. I mean, even today, we struggle to talk to each other via computer because, like, I want to look up and see you here, but like you're not here.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I guess I would agree that the social skills now, when you and I were growing up, we had different social skills than they do today, and it's interesting because we're still the same dynamic. Like, we're still made up of the same thing. We're still human.
Yeah.
But it's the level of exposure that they're being exposed to technology is so much more advanced.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember just thinking like technology is not something I'm ever. My TV is as closest to technology I'm gonna get, and it wasn't. I mean, the flat screen TV that we have today is the big dinosaur TV. Yeah, and so you're right. I do think that there is a level of social skills that they
lacking.
Lack.
Yeah, they're lacking.
They're lacking. Lacking, and then it's not their fault, right? It's just a matter of their environment. Their environment doesn't provide an atmosphere for these social skills to be developed. Whereas you and I, like Julian and Ponchito, will probably never have the argument of pulling each other's hair over WWE wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Whereas you and I, we have that experience, and and now I know like not to fight with you because of those things, right? Whereas them, I'm not saying they fight together. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it's a different social skill. It's a different social skill needed than what you and I had to acquire.
Yeah, and also, so because I do see a lot of kids that they're to themselves. They, like how you were saying, they lack that social skill. I talked to a couple of them a couple kids that are like that, and I'm just like, dude, like it's fine, you could open up, like, I'm here to listen to you and hear you out, but they just don't have that comfort. They, like how you said, they'd rather do it over a headset, virtually, rather than physically, and I feel like not everybody, obviously. I mean, that's you can't pin antisocial on all kids, but yeah, because there's people our age that grew up in the 90s era as well that are antisocial as well.
Yeah.
But there's just, I feel like there's less, just because we had to come together and be like, hey, you want to play this? You want to go play marbles? You want to go play pogs? We had to communicate with one another. But like, hey, we can play cops and robbers, and we'll have this group together and that group together, rather than like, hey, here's a text message like, hey, I'm playing like how you're saying, I'm playing 2K or Fortnite or Modern Warfare. Hey, you wanna play? Yeah, sure. Like, rather than doing it physically or going over to your friend's house, like, hey, let's play. I brought Conkers with me. Put that in and start playing. Right. Exactly. And that's why I feel like I feel like in the 90s era, we're more creative. I feel like we were more creative in the aspect of like having fun, because we found ways. We would smash a can and play bote. Yeah, we would smash a can, get our family member, all our cousins together and play Volte. If you're Hispanic, you know what that is. It's a form of hide and seek and tag, and we add a smashed can into the game, and it's crazy. But yeah, see, we're very creative.
And it's outdoors. We had to be outdoors.
Outdoors. A lot of our times were spent outdoors. My mom would always call me a callejero.
Hasta la fecha me dicen eso.
Yeah, they call me a callejero, and like in Mexican terms. Well, basically in the English term, and what is the English term of that?
A street person.
A street person. Yeah, a street person. But it was bad. It was shaming you.
there was a stigma attached to it.
There was a stigma. Yeah.
There was a stigma to being callejero.
Yeah.
It wasn't a compliment.
Yeah, and then when they would tell you, they would give you this bad look, like callejero, like oh damn, like you know,
like be more at home.
Yeah.
Be more at home, and I think now what we tell kids is go outside. Go outside more.
Yes, exactly.
Go outside. Go hang out with your friends outside. Go play outside. Just go be outside. And we're socially very different. And I think that as time goes, like as years progress, that's natural. Like us, we grew up in the 90's, right? So like people in the 70's, like our moms and my mom specifically, her level of fun was not my level of fun. Like I did play video games. My mom never really played video games until like Pac-Man or there's another game that she played that she tells me that she's played, but the one I can think of right now is Pac-Man, where it was just a joystick that you would play with. So even that's like evolved so much differently. The music has evolved so much differently. The things that they listened to then, although we still listen to it today, we name it differently. My mom's not gonna listen to Madonna as being old school.
Yeah.
But my brother might listen to Madonna and think like, oh yeah, old school.
Or they'll laugh at it.
Yeah, probably not like me. Actually, Julian actually likes Madonna. No. Heike, I should say. But like even just like Michael Jackson. Like these things these artists that we used to listen to then, are not. I mean, Michael Jackson, rest in peace, right? Not even alive today. But the music still lives on, and I think that that's one of the things that has kept will keep generations together. Is what I'm trying to say. One thing that will keep generations together is that lived experience, the human lived experience of the fact that we still have technology. My brother and I are not far-fetched when we say the concept of video games. We know what that is, and as well as my mom. So there's this level of like, yes, we're growing up differently, but never lose sight of the fact that we are still human and we're still going to be part of the human experience together collectively. I was going somewhere with this. I don't quite remember exactly where I was going with it, but it's okay. I know it had something to do with stigmas and music.
Yeah, you were speaking about stigma. Yeah, but yeah, dude. Like I said, we're more. I feel we're more creative. So I feel like we're more creative. I feel like they're very intelligent when it comes down to electronics, gaming. What else?
Even navigating the internet. My brother is so good at navigating the internet, so much more effectively than I am. And I thought that I was really good at navigating the internet because I developed navigating the internet differently than my mom did. Where I remember like showing my mom how to do certain things, and now my brother's showing me how to find movies and how to stream music and how to like just a question that I have in terms of technology. I feel more confident asking my brother versus relying on my own source of trying to find on Google, because it's going to take me a lot longer. He's so much faster at it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're very intelligent when it comes down to technology. And it's a good thing, you know, if they can pursue a career in becoming, just creating new electronics. IT. Yeah, IT. That's what I'm saying. Like, if they go to MIT, damn, like, I feel like all kids nowadays can make it at MIT. They can create a robot and that can do it all, you know, but I don't know. Yeah, I feel like they're very intelligent when it comes down to electronics. But, Yeah.
Going back really quickly to the whole exposure to violence, I found some stuff.
Okay.
As noted earlier, a survey found, the survey is by NATSCEV, found that exposure to violence is common. Of course, we grew up with violence, we were exposed to violence, so that's very normal. But more than 60% of children surveyed today experience more violence. So 1 out of 10 reported experienced violence, whereas with us, for us, it was 1 out of 10 experienced witnessing violence, and now it's 1 out of 5. So it's basically double, if I'm reading that correctly. And likely they're just experienced to more violence, and this is before they enter school. So this isn't when they're in college or in high school or even just elementary school. This is before they enter preschool or pre-K or first grade. Sorry, not first grade, kindergarten. They're just exposed to so much more levels of violence and so many different forms of violence too. What I mean by that is, school shooting has always been something that has run a system, of course, in our American society. But I think today it's so much more feared. Yeah. It's so much more likely that it's to happen. Therefore, the fear is validated. Whereas I don't remember growing up. I remember being scared of a fire and being scared of an earthquake. And after it was the fire and the earthquake, it was just a lockdown. I was scared of lockdown. Not that people were going to come shoot the school, but the area around our school is what was going to get shot up, right? Our community.
And then that happened a lot when we were growing up. All the time, like, you know, we had lockdowns constantly. At least, probably maybe just exaggerated, maybe once a month. That's exaggerated, but I mean,
it felt like
it felt like it, exactly.
It felt like it, and there was consistent enough to where I remember during the MS-13 riots, I was in 8th grade, I believe, at the time, and we had lockdown every other day. So it was lockdown one day, next day no lockdown, lockdown the next day no lockdown. So within a week we had lockdown, multiple lockdowns. So you're not far-fetched when you say like once a month, because if you average it out, it becomes that. We're exposed.
It adds up to it. Yeah, dude, and but yeah, I don't know.
Crazy stuff,
yeah, like that's crazy. I don't know. I feel like I've experienced so much more violence than what is going on now. I don't know. Maybe because we were there was more gangs at the time. That can be the reason.
There was more, or not more?
No, there was more gangs at the times when we were growing up. There's more gang members, and rather than now, and I feel that's why probably there was more violence when we were growing up.
Yeah, but, and I feel like we knew them personally, like we
knew
exactly people that were getting shot or getting into fights or were getting arrested. Like we knew these people, whereas now it's, and again, I'm not growing up now, so if you're out there, correct me if I'm wrong. It's a level of, you can separate yourself from this person, where we couldn't just separate ourselves. I mean, my best friend, kindergarten best friend, is still locked up and will be locked up until we're past 45. So it like that's something that we within ourselves, it shifts us. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that there's a level of disconnect that happens now that back then we couldn't disconnect from the gang violence around us, because we were so directly connected to the people that were the gang members or involved in gang affiliation. Whereas now there is that level of separateness. My brother, I doubt, knows his friends to be gang members. He knows gang members because he knows me, but there's a different level of connection that he has to these people. If he's connected, and if he knows these people, it's because he knows me. Versus like maybe even like your brother might not know these people. They might not just be his friends as it was for us.
Yeah.
The street callers were our friends. Now today, the street callers in the street are not necessarily middle schoolers like when we were growing up.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think middle schoolers being shot callers in the streets, but that's just what we grew up with.
That's what it was, you know, like it was crazy. I remember being asked like, "Hey, you want to be part of this gang?" And at the time I was just like, dude, like I always thought about my mom, dude. like all the time, like no, like dude, like my mom. If my mom found out I was in the gang, and I would want to put her through that situation, and I felt like it was disrespectful if I did, cause she was always there for us whenever we needed anything. So why would we have to turn to a gang to look for help, or or just be having friend, just because they're part of the game, that doesn't mean we can't be friends anymore. So that's where I found my like, not disconnect, but my limit. Okay, so there's a certain amount of, like, dang, it was in my head right now. I was about.
There's a boundary there.
Yeah, there's a boundary. Yeah, I know my boundaries. Exactly the word I was looking for. So I know my boundaries from being like, hey, if I see you on the streets, or if I'm shooting some hoops or whatever, like, go ahead and come along, tag along and start shooting hoops with me. But if you're asking me to hop in a car and load a magazine up and try to hit somebody with it, then yeah, I know my morals. I know what's right and I know what's wrong. And I mean, like how we were saying, these kids just grew up like that. That's all they've known since the start. But luckily we had elder siblings that told us, like, hey, like, yeah, they may be your friends and stuff, but there's boundaries, and we learn from their mistakes. I've learned a lot from my elders' mistakes, and but it helped me out in the long run, and I know they're proud of that, because.
Can you repeat that, please? You
learned
a lot.
Oh, I learned a lot from the mistakes that from our elder siblings, and if they hear this, they know I'm not shaming them, and they know that I know that they're gonna be proud of what they had experienced, and they know that I've seen that what they did was a mistake. Now they know that I'm not gonna do it, and they, like I said, they appreciate that I didn't have to do that in order to realize it's a mistake. So, but yeah.
It's very true, because we grow from the things that we see, and sometimes it's very true that we have to live our own lives to grow from our own lives, but sometimes we do have the ability to learn from someone else's life, like put ourselves in someone else's shoes, or see what someone else is experiencing, and decide for ourselves if that's what we want to do or not do. And I avoided a lot of confrontation with my mom, thankfully, to my sister. My sister's experiences have taught me a lot in terms of communications, and in terms of communicating to my elders, but also communicating to my mom what that's going to look like. And that never would have happened had I not seen my mom and my sister's dynamic. And they have an amazing relationship that's only grown. They grow to that relationship. It's not something that we're just born and we know how to communicate with people. We have to learn how to navigate certain conversations with certain people, and how to be honest with certain people, and navigate that conversation in an honest way. And I think that I've gained so many skills in communication because of my sister, and the people that I know in my life are because of my sister. I mean, the music I love in my life is because of my sister. So we do grow a lot, and we don't necessarily have to live it ourselves. We don't have to do those same actions. We can just simply observe and grow from that observation and say, okay, well, did it work? Did it not work?
Yeah.
Because I can do something differently. And if I do the same things that maybe she did that we, quote unquote, weren't supposed to do, it's because that idea that we do have to live and make our own decisions and make our own mistakes to learn from those mistakes. And I think that as much as we have to do that, we can still learn from other people.
And another thing too, the music we grew up with was very rugged, very and like I said, like the music I've listened to, and I know my older brother, my older sister didn't like it. I would listen to gangster music, like gangster, like Hispanic gang music. And another thing too, the way they put their lyrics together, painted a vivid picture in my head. and the way they put their lyrics together made me realize, made me see what they were experiencing, and I can see that it was wrong. And I was glad that I listened to that music growing up, because it gave me a choice. Do I really want to go down that path? Follow all my friends down that path. I still call them my friends because they're still my friends. Just because we didn't go down the same path doesn't mean we don't deal with each other anymore. But like I said, that music taught me, or showed me, guided me the way. Either do you want that path, you want to keep continuing walking down this path, or you can still be friends with these people, but you can still go on this other side path, the good path, the right path. And the thing is too, like, it's like how you're saying stigma. It's a stigma, you know. Like, a lot of people damn the gang life. Not even just the gang, just the music in general. Like, you know, like, oh damn, he said that. Like, he really shot that person, or he really robbed that store, and you know, it's very vivid. But this is stories that are being told by actual gang members, and we can use the same music, that same song that certain gang members is singing in or rapping in, and visualize, like, dude, like, these guys are living rugged, like, real life. This is real life stuff, and they're basically telling us, do you really want to live this life? Yeah, you know, do you really want to live this life? And then that's when you ask yourself, like, dude, like, I'm going this way, I'm going this path, I'm going down this path. And a lot of the music that I listened to growing up really showed me that, and that's why I knew my boundaries.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm gonna pause this, but not right now. But what I want to say before I pause this is, there's academic standing to what we're saying about gangs and music specifically. Mm-hmm. But I'll get to that as soon as I take my break. Okay? We're gonna take a break.
All right.
All right. I needed it very much so. But essentially, what I was going to say is that there's academic standing to gangs. And I took this class in my background. I'm a sociology major. I study sociology at Chico State, and I took a class called Sociology of Gangs. And I love that I took that class, because I come from an area where there was a lot of gang influence. Really more specifically, there was a lot of either norteño, sureño, and I learned that there's a reason why I didn't end up in that situation. I as exposed as I was, and as sometimes I was that person tagging the X4 here and there and saying no to whatever, all that stuff, there's a reason, a legit reason why I actually am not gang involved. And that goes to this idea of family. Gang members unite because they already have a lack of family structure in their personal lives. It's very well known in academic studies, in academic standing, that people join gangs for that support, that survival support. There's something in their family dynamic that they don't have, that they see in their gang brothers and their ganghood, and a lot of times is that idea of brotherhood. I never needed brotherhood because I have my primos. I have my people in my life that, although I grew up wanting and longing for a brother, I had my cousins to kind of help me not always think about the fact that I didn't have a brother. I grew up longing the relationship with the father, but I had a really, really supportive mother who played both roles amazingly well. Yeah. So there's that on top of the fact that I got my brother, and I loved the little boy like crazy, and so there was never that need that I had that drove me to go into this gang affiliation, right? I didn't need protection. I didn't need to sustain my family because my family was already being sustained by my mom. And so there's these things that I'm identifying that I have are things that this is on the spectrum, right? Not everyone's the same, but in terms of folks who are involved in gangs, that's a lot of times what they lack, that family structure, that the structure of they might need money. So what's an easy way to make money on the streets? Well, selling drugs, or doing I guess missions or tasks within your gang crew to make monetary value out of it. The opposite, right? And so there's these things that in academic standing you start looking at the needs of an individual and what are the means of getting that need. People need shelter, people need love, and people need support. Like as humans, we need, aside from the fact that we need to breathe and we need water, these are social things that we need. We need love, we need support, and we need this idea of guardianship. And that's what gangs actually do. They provide support, they provide monetary support, they provide backup. So you're not necessarily just walking the streets and a target. No, you're walking the streets and you feel more confident because your brothers got your back. Your fellow gang members got your back. And it's not just males. It's very much so women as well. When women don't have these structures, or the family structures that they have are toxic, likely they are going to be folks that are going to engage in more riskier behavior, like being gang involved. But really, they're doing it out of a means of survival. And I love that I learned that in school, because on top of the fact that I didn't understand why me and my best friend ended up being in two different paths of our lives, I actually understood not just why, but the reason behind, like, he, as much as he had his brothers were gang involved. So likely he was that next person to be gang involved, because his brothers, he followed his path.
It's like a family, it's like I said, you're born in it. Like how we're talking about in the beginning, where kids are just born in it, and they start at a young age, from like how I was saying in the beginning, from 3rd grade, 4th grade, and people don't believe that, but it's true. It's true.
And I like I said, the academic standing behind it makes so much more sense, because for me, one thing that I was able to do is release the stigma that I had for people who were gang involved. Again, I grew up with these people. I had a lot of respect for these people, but in my stigmatized judgment eyes, I thought that these people were bad, quote unquote bad people, and that's not the case. And that's what the stigma does. Stigma in itself is this idea that, don't want to butcher it, but it's a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or a person, and that is a disgrace associated with that. So in our society, like, we grew up, these were our friends, so we didn't see them as bad people. They're our friends. How do we see them as bad people? But the reason why there is this level of stigma against gang members is because, although I might believe that, and yes, I know that these people are my friends, what am I hearing around me? I'm hearing that gang violence is bad. I'm hearing that another death shooting, another minor dead because of a gang-related shooting. Like, those things that society tells me, things that my mom told me, things that my aunts told me, things that my uncles told me, like, these things were not positive things about folks who were gang members, but it also didn't align with the way I saw them. So like I said, I'm glad that I had learned that in college, because it allowed me to free this judgment, release this judgment that I had towards people that I grew up with, and also a judgment that I had towards myself, because it's that level of stigma. And there is no disgrace for having to do what you have to do to survive. No one should ever feel just a disgrace for having to do what is the next level of survivalship. If our body does it intrinsically with ourselves, imagine the actions that it's going to involve when we're actually looking at the real world. And what I mean by that is, like, when there's a level of, when my body lacks survival, cortisol is going to rush to my body to help me seek survival. Adrenaline's going to pump, and all that's going to happen so that I can get to my survival state.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what they're doing, but they're doing it in the level that is brotherhood, right? They might lack brotherhood in their family structure, so
they find it in gangs.
And oftentimes you're not influenced by somebody that's younger than you to join a gang. You're influenced by somebody that's older than you to join a gang. And I know in my life, I've always been told, respect your elders. Respect your elders. It doesn't matter if someone's older than you have to learn to respect them because they're older than you. How do you correlate that when the elder is telling me that my friend is like a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't correlate so well. So who did I cling to? I cling to my friend more so than my uncle who told me these things, or XYZ, right? That other person that may have tried to influence me to see an individual as something else, right? To judge an individual, right?
To mark them.
See them through the perspective of the stigma.
Yeah, like mark them with a certain characteristic or a certain term, or so like a criminal. They say when someone commits a crime, and as soon as they get out of prison, they're still a criminal. So they're stigmatizing that word to them. They're marking them with that with that word criminal. So everyone that sees them, even when you're applying for jobs and stuff, have you ever been institutionalized or in prison? Have you ever committed a crime? And it's that they're also is stigmatizing the marking someone. That's a way for them to separate certain applicants for certain jobs and decrease a certain amount of applicants, and are able to choose from criminals to non-criminal applicants. And
not to interject you, but let's just keep in mind that it's not that they're not criminals, it's just that they're not convicted criminals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they might still be doing actually even worse things.
Yeah, exactly. They just still haven't. Yeah, exactly.
and I'll just throw, I kind of talked about this last time we were on the podcast. Minorities are falsely accused of crimes they didn't commit far more than white folks, and it's why our prison systems are filled with minorities and not the other way around, right? It baffles me, but there's a level of understanding that I do have when it makes academic sense, right? When it makes sense why we have targeted gay members due to crime. Well, protecting someone else isn't necessarily a crime.
Yeah.
Protecting someone is actually a good deed. But when we have a stigma tied to the individual, the socialized group, now it's not that level of help doesn't matter anymore. It's because the stigma is what is more important, and we see the stigma versus we see the human, right? And I think that's the thing that we have to grow from. We have to grow from this level of stigmatizing people and seeing them as humans who are trying to make a means of survival. And this is just not to be gang related anymore. This is stigmas all throughout our society.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure in our next podcast we'll be able to talk a lot more about
stigma. Yeah. So I mean we're kind of running out of time. So so in our next podcast we want to touch on stigma. We want to get more deeper into stigma. Also, we also have another podcast coming out, and it's gonna be, what was it? Wisdom quotes. And we're gonna choose a couple of quotes that stand out to us personally. So I'll have my own quotes that stand out to me. Nano's gonna have his own, and my older brother Diego, he's gonna come out on this podcast as well. You guys are gonna go ahead and see him and meet him, and he's gonna have his own, and we're gonna explain why they mean so much to us and what it means to us, so we're just gonna keep going. That's one of our next episodes too. So wisdom quotes, and then also we're gonna get into stigma a little deeper. So and then
probably bring in stereotypes too and really have that conversation.
And then also remember, leave them comments, man. We wanna read those comments. And I think it was Humanoid 25 commented on our first podcast, and like I said, remember how I said everyone's feel free to comment and express your thoughts and your opinions, because there's something Humanoid 25 said, and that really changed my mind on what I said in the podcast. So, see, like I said, we're all gonna grow. We're gonna grow with someone else's beliefs, opinions, or thoughts on particular things. So, yeah, go ahead and leave them comments. Also,
Commenting on that comment because I like that we're engaging with these folks who are commenting, but like you said, we're going to learn a lot ourselves of the things that we're saying and how we can shift our language differently in the next podcast, but also how we can just within our everyday life, like outside of this podcast, how we can be more influencers in our society, more advocates for folks who need those advocates, and really just use our voice for those who really don't recognize that they have a voice yet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we're gonna head out. YouTube, Famcast, we're out. Like I said, leave them comments. Also, leave some topics that you want us to cover on. It helps us out. It expands our minds on, or our even ideas. It just expands our ideas on what you guys want us to cover on. Because we never know, you guys may have a topic that we've never even thought about, or no one has ever even thought about, and we can research, we can look into it and express our feelings and thoughts on that. So like I said, just leave them comments. Remember, tell your friends, your family members, subscribe, hit the notification, hit the bell, and then you'll see whenever we upload a video, you'll see that. Because if you just subscribe, it's not gonna show you our new videos. So you guys gotta hit that bell. All right. Anything you gotta say, Nano?
I hope everyone's taking care of each other out there. Take care of the people around you. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you. But more importantly, love yourself.
Yeah. All right. And we out.
We out. Take care, y'all. Comment.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, man.